What is going on, everyone, and welcome to r/am I the butthole. In today's first post, this Reddit user is trying to work out whether she was in the right or wrong for exposing her colleague for using OnlyFans. Before we get into that though, guys, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you aren't already. It's completely free, of course, and I'm trying to hit 600,000 by the end of 2020. It would be an amazing milestone to hit, so any little helps, appreciate it. Let's get into this mental first story. Am I the butthole for getting a girl at work fired for having an OnlyFans account? I, a 30-year-old female, work as a financial advisor at a rather large and well-known firm, along with my co-worker T, who is in her mid-20s, also a woman. One lunchtime, T, I'll call her Tessa, was having a discussion with us about how she had started an OnlyFans and was already getting subscribers. She said we should forget about slaving away at a desk for a company and take our future into our own hands, etc. Tessa then told me I should try it. I brushed this off and said it's just not something I'd like to do. She asked me why, and I shrugged and said, just because. It's like asking me if I'd like to become an actress or a doctor, neither appealed to me. However, Tessa didn't see it that way, and she said, "What, do you think you're better than me?" I said, "No, of course not. I just wouldn't consider doing sex work as a career." Tessa took great offense, saying that if I'm happy earning peanuts, working my life away for a boss just for dignity, then that's on me, and I mustn't judge her for wanting to make a better future for herself, that she's not ashamed of what she's doing. She also said, when your children ask you why they were poor their whole lives, you can tell them it's because you had too much dignity to provide them more. I have 2 children and I am fully able to provide for them, so this made me angry. She got up and went back to her desk. At this point, one of my other colleagues, in a much higher managerial position, had overheard her and asked me what happened. So I told her. After all, Tessa's words were she wasn't ashamed of what she was doing. She seemed very open about it. My colleague said nothing and we went back to work. I thought nothing more of it, though I was irritated by Tessa's comments about my children and financial status. I put most of my earnings into my home, family, and investments. I drive a pretty standard looking vehicle and my dress sense is rather plain, I guess. About a week later, I noticed Tessa was no longer coming into work. One of the girls she hung out with a lot at lunchtime was shooting me angry looks and speaking in hushed tones to their usual group. When I sat down, the girl turned to me and said, "Are you pleased with yourself?" I asked why, and she said, "We all know you told the boss about Tessa's OnlyFans account to get her fired." I was taken aback, then remember mentioning it to my colleague that day. I went to her office to ask what had happened. She told me that she had decided to investigate Tessa's social media, which listed our company as her workplace on her profile. Her Instagram was full of risque photos to push her OnlyFans. As her Instagram and Facebook profiles were easily connected, my colleague said it was openly moonlighting in a way that did not reflect well on the company, and she reported it. Tessa was called into a meeting, which ended in her being dismissed. I now feel responsible for Tessa losing her job. Her friends have branded me a butthole, telling everyone I'm a jealous female dog and an OnlyFans shamer, etc. My colleague told me Tessa had it coming though, and I must not feel bad. Now, as always, guys, this is where you come in. If you have any thoughts, is OP the butthole, or is the other OnlyFans girl really in the wrong here, or is OP's boss? Let me know down below. I'm going to give you my quick thoughts though. First of all, there's nothing wrong with having an OnlyFans account. Let me make that absolutely clear, unless your company has an issue with it. So in this situation, this person who does have the OnlyFans account, absolutely fine to have that. I just wouldn't go around, spouting it and then making other people feel bad about themselves because they choose not to have an OnlyFans account and just work a normal job. Like, there's nothing wrong with just having a normal job and not doing OnlyFans on the side, guys, clearly. So, OP, no, I don't think you were in the wrong there at all. I get that she probably irked you a little bit by saying, "Oh, what, you don't even provide for your kids?" Like, that's a horrible thing to say. So mentioning it to someone else, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Then it's their decision whether they want to go and report it or not and, do some more digging. And realistically, yes, it probably is against company policy to have an OnlyFans account that is linked with your Instagram, your Facebook, which is also linked, therefore, to your company. So, it's not really your fault that she was the one blabbering on about how amazing OnlyFans is. Then you mention it and she gets reported and fired for it. I'm sorry, but yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, ultimately, your social media represents a company, clearly. It's your name, it represents your, employment. So therefore, if you're posting risque pics on there, trying to promote your OnlyFans, which is, an NSFW site, then you need to be responsible enough to understand that, yes, there is a big chance you could lose your job. And if you're going around, saying so much rubbish about it like that and just putting it in everyone's faces, then ultimately you kind of deserve to get found out. That's my opinion anyway. Guys, let me know down below, do you agree or disagree with me? I'm interested. Now moving on to our next post. Am I the butthole for how I responded to a senior HR member accusing me of taking drugs at work? For some background, I have diagnosed bipolar disorder. I've been on medication over a year and it's the best decision I've ever made. That being said, I have a tendency to go off my meds when I'm manic. It's not fun when the meds wean out of my system and I go nuts. In order not to sabotage myself, I take my meds every day at 11 AM. It helps me settle myself for the rest of the day and keeps me on a strict schedule. My workplace has shifted online fully. We had a Zoom call yesterday with HR to update everyone on COVID measures going forward for the upcoming quarter, and it was about 30 or so people on the call. HR has been very retentive about people keeping their videos on throughout the meeting. Nobody is allowed to move out of the screen. The meeting began at 9 AM. 11 AM comes around and my alarm buzzes to remind me about the medication. I moved slightly out of frame and took them while still on the call. I didn't think anybody noticed, but apparently this senior HR person we'll call Quentin did. The meeting wraps up at 12 noon, and as we're all getting ready to sign off, Quentin tells me to stay behind after everybody leaves in front of them. I found that very unprofessional, but I held my tongue. Quentin then launched on this long diatribe about how I'm setting a hostile work environment by taking my meds during work hours, that I'm being neglectful of my duties, and that I'm ruining your body with them. When I finally got a chance to respond, I said that the drugs I'm taking are prescription medication, and that I fail to see how the 5 seconds it takes me to take them is creating a hostile work environment. I said that my medical history is none of their business, and since they have failed to demonstrate any real harm in the situation, I didn't feel like this discussion was warranted. Quentin looked like they'd swallowed sour milk and told me they'd be writing me up, and that I was officially being warned for my behaviour. I saw red, and right after the call ended, I sent an email to the head of HR, summarising the conversation and refuting the warning and write-ups. I stated that the relevant legal protections accorded to employees in such situations, and that I hoped the head of HR would address this fairly. He looked into the matter, and I later learned that Quentin had been suspended without pay. A bunch of my co-workers caught on to what happened, and are now making it very difficult to work with them. Apparently, Quentin was a popular person in the office, and they felt that complaining to the head of HR was taking it too far. This entire situation feels utterly surreal, and I can't think of any reason why I'd be the butthole, but I'm facing an uncomfortable work situation, and I want to know if I need to apologise and smooth things over. Well, first of all, again, in my opinion, you're definitely not the butthole in this situation. If someone has an opinion of you, which you know is going to tarnish your relationship at work, and is potentially even going to cost you your job, you never know how far Quentin was going to go here, then of course, you'd get involved with his superior straight away and tell them your side of events. Get in there early enough so that it doesn't have to become, a big debacle where everyone knows about it, and just say to the head of HR, look, this is what actually happened from my perspective. I was taking prescription medication, not drugs, in the more loose sense, and I didn't do anything wrong here, and I think Quentin is going way too overboard. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. What I would say is it is probably a good idea for you to go and talk to Quentin's mates at your work and just explain to them exactly what has happened, and then hear their opinion as well, and listen to what they're saying and try to come to a mutual agreement between both sets of you, because you don't want it to ruin your relationship with your other colleagues when they don't know the full story, but they may well have liked Quentin, as you say. So yeah, that's what I would do. But you did nothing wrong, absolutely, of course not. And it's the head of HR who's made this decision, by the way, not you. And he, as the head of HR, has listened to both your side of events and Quentin's side of events and made his mind up. Nothing wrong with that, and it probably was the right decision, although it does seem a little bit harsh on Quentin, I'm not gonna lie. Now moving on to our final post. Am I the butthole for selling my family home because my pregnant sister-in-law ate my dinner? I, a 19-year-old female, lost my father last year to cancer. He left me 90% of his stuff, including his family home that was left to him by his dad. It's been in their family for over 100 years. My 34-year-old brother and my dad didn't have a relationship, but he did leave him $10,000. My mum was fuming at the will reading, but since she also got $10K, she couldn't do anything about it. For the past year, me and her lived okay together. She went on acting like it was her house, like before, which I had no problem with, till in May, my brother and his girlfriend, 30, moved in, without even asking me. They're messy, entitled, and rude, and I told them in July I want them out by September because they don't pay for anything, nor wash a dish. In August, they announced they were pregnant, and my sister-in-law smugly said, "Guess we won't be moving out now." It didn't go down well, but when I told them I wanted them out, my mum and brother basically laughed in my face. Well, the past few months have been heck. They've become worse than before, and my mum enables it, then demands me to treat my sister-in-law like a princess because she's pregnant. I once had to wait outside McDonald's till they opened to get her a McMuffin. Well, here is where I may be the butthole. Because my sister-in-law is pregnant, she eats everything she sees, like the cupcakes my friend made for me for my birthday. She ate all 6, I didn't even get to try them. I can't even make my lunch the night before because when I go to get it, it will be gone. She'll have a smug look on her face while rubbing her belly, then laugh and say, "I couldn't help myself, blame the baby." If I put stuff in my room, my mum will open the door with the spare key so my sister-in-law can go through my mini fridge. Well, a week ago, I was running late to college. I didn't have time for breakfast or to make lunch, and I had to go to work straight after. So all I had that day was a bar of chocolates. When I got home, I was starving, so I made myself dinner, and while it was cooling down, I went to use the bathroom. I must have been in there 10 minutes at most. By the time I came out, she'd had 70% of my dinner and I literally lost my head. Of course, she started crying. My mum and brother started screaming at me for making her cry, making excuses like how she couldn't help it, and it was my fault for leaving food around her. Well, I had had enough. I told them to get out, just like before. I got mocked, but here's the thing. Back in October, my uncle offered me a life-changing amount of money for the house. I called him up, crying, a few days ago, explaining the situation, and he said he'd buy the house, but he will evict my mum and brother. They, of course, didn't take it too well, and I've had to stay with a friend because I've been receiving texts and being tagged in multiple posts on social media. I'm starting to think that I'm now the bad person. So, am I the butthole for making my mum and brother homeless? Oh, I don't know. This is actually quite a tough one. It's hard because obviously they're your family, but just because they're your family doesn't mean they're not horrible people. I mean, that's pretty clear. What is this rubbish about just because you're pregnant, you want to eat everything that someone else makes for them? That's a load of come on, I get it. You obviously need to feed 2 people when you're pregnant, not just 1, so you eat more food, obviously. But it doesn't give you an excuse to just go and eat anyone's food you just happen to see around when they're in the bathroom. That's a load of rubbish. I don't get why your mum and, your brother are enabling this. I feel like you can just get them out. And surely, just because they're pregnant doesn't mean they can't just go and rent another flat or another house. It's your house, it's in the will that it is your house. Your uncle's going to buy it, therefore it's now his house. He can do whatever he wants with it. And, if he wants to kick them out, then yeah, it's within his right to do it. And it's within your right to sell your house. It's a shame that they're going to have to be homeless, but maybe just go and rent a house yourself. They must have some money, surely. I don't know. Weird one. I'm not completely sure, guys. Let me know down below what you think. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/am I the butthole. No doubt one of my favorite subreddits recently. I really enjoy these posts and I hope you guys do too. If you want more from me right away, I released this Am I the Butthole video just a couple of days ago. One of my favorite videos that I've made recently. It's a great one. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed. And if you want some lovely clothing for Christmas, check out my merch right here as well. With that all being said, guys, I will see you later on today for a brand new upload.